Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Montgomery County Commissioner Judy Dodge, and we plan to officially get the 2021 Food Summit started right at 8:30. But in the meantime, I'm going to turn this over to Brian Raisin, an Associate Professor of Community and Organizational Leadership at OSU Extension. He will help us make some connections with each other through some conversations about listening and storytelling before we get started with today's summit. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Commissioner. I am so excited to be here. This 11 years of coming together to talk about food, which is one of my favorite things. So this is called an unofficial start. If we were together, which next year we're going to be, I'm sure, we would be talking and sharing and telling stories. And so another way to do that when you're virtual is to throw out a question and to ask people to engage even before the official start time, because again, this is what we would be doing. And so in your mind, let's do this little experiment here. Think about a favorite food, picture it, and then tell us why. Feel free to unmute or type in the chat box some of your favorite foods and why is it a favorite food? Who does it remind you of? What comes to mind? Pop the chat box up here. Arugula, haha, awesome. Oh, okay, so everybody's muted. Yeah, thanks, Kelly. So salmon, ooh, I'm all about salmon. Native passion fruit. I have never tried that. Strawberries. With antioxidants, yes. Got some healthy folks out there. All right. Vegetables. Did you like them as a kid? Homemade bread. Oh man, now I'm getting hungry. I ate breakfast like 2 hours ago, so now you guys are killing me. Oh, meatloaf. Yeah. I've got a nice meatloaf recipe from my great grandmother that I still make. Homemade mac and cheese. Oh man. Smell of breakfast. Oh, Amy, yes. So Amy's note there reminds me of my great grandmother, her house being there, her cooking. I mean, that's the why. We just, loving a food is one thing, but there's a story behind it so often. And so another family tradition from Audrey there. Yeah, that is why this matters so much, because it touches us and it's part of who we are and that fabric. And so that's what I really love. My family, oh man, we've got some food traditions. So let's talk about this just for a minute. This idea, I get my slide to advance. There we go. Before we jump into that, let me just ask a question. And panelists who are able to unmute, feel free to jump in on this as well. But what just happened? And I've got it in the parentheses there. We heard some stories, even though they were brief, in the chat box of not just the favorite food. We got some of those, but then we had some of the whys, some of the behind the scene. And those stories, when we engage an audience with a question, we create stories. And the cool thing about those is instead of just listing the what, the type of food, the story behind it connects us. It engages our brains at a higher level. And if you're doing this, and I invite you to do this, if you're doing a Zoom or teaching a class, you can do it online or you can do it in person as well. People don't say, let's just give it a few more minutes, make sure everybody gets on. Oh, don't you just hate that when you're waiting and somebody says it? A simple question to get the conversation started, this unofficial start, can be a really fun kind of activity to do. So I get this from Chad Littlefield. I don't know him personally, but I follow him because he's got some really good stuff. And And he says, if you ask a question that relates to your purpose, then it really helps prep people for your content, whatever that may be. That could be at the farmer's market when you're selling. You ask somebody a question, it draws them in. And maybe it's asking them, what's your favorite food? And then, do you have a recipe for my arugula here or something? You draw them in, and then it relates to the content. It helps people connect with each other, or one-on-one, again, if at a farmer's market or at an educational event. But then if you give people time to share the stories, the connection gets even stronger. And that content, that connection will last longer. So here's a point about stories and connecting. Sometimes people miss. Hearing stories can be a life-changing thing for the teller and the listener. This is a really interesting, I'll give you an example here in just a second. But our communities, the folks that we're working with, the folks we're selling to, the folks we're interacting with, that we're teaching, whatever it may be, our communities are filled with stories that we can't even fathom. Here's just an example from my family. The little girl with the big smile, that's my mom, and her brother, and my mama and papa, probably 1946, something like that, Southern West Virginia. Talk about some food traditions. As we learn these stories, we build trust. We co-create solutions for impact. We enliven, we make our community stronger. So here's an example. Somebody watch Stories from the Stage. It is a fascinating program. It's on PBS. I get it on our antennas since we don't have cable. And it comes in pretty good. I think Thursday night, I don't remember. Anyway, highly recommended. Kunyan Bui says, good storytelling comes from listening. It's a fascinating point that I want to emphasize. He says, listening is powerful, but also risky, because when we truly listen, we risk changing ourselves, and that is scary. I had to think about this for a while, and this is probably a year or so that I heard him say this. I watched his story, but it was the interview before when he said this quote, "We risk changing ourselves." So here's my question, or maybe a challenge for you today. Are you willing to risk changing yourself? Are you willing to truly listen as we begin to engage communities or our customers or clients or the students or our colleagues in any way? Here's a little, let's jump back to the chat, or again, unmute as if you have the panelist option. And let's just talk about this just for a minute. What might happen if we endeavor to follow this idea and really listen first when doing our work in local food systems? What might happen if we do that? It's a little more thought in this one than your favorite food. And again, and if anybody has the mic, feel free to unmute and share. I was say, I'm an educator, I can wait all day. And we might actually become solution focused. Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. Long-term sustainable transformation. The true needs. Oh my gosh. We actually meet people's needs. We have to capture this chat. Empower people, change. I am not joking. You folks are giving me goosebumps. Better sense of what community assets are, an asset-based appreciative approach, what the community wants. Partner with them, shape policy. Oh my goodness. Wow. People will feel heard. Especially people who don't have a lot of voice. Wow. More community gardens. Yeah. We can hear things like that. Again, those needs and see those assets. Wow, I missed a few. I'm going to scroll back up just for a second. Solutions focus, understand the needs versus the expectations of the givers. Oh my goodness, how many times have we been guilty? I have been guilty of going in, oh, I've got a solution. Yeah. Co-creating that solution is so much stronger and more powerful. Solution focus. I'm just buzzing back up there real quick. Voices of those with lived experience may enter the conversation. Culturally humble. I talk about intellectual humility sometimes with my colleagues at Ohio State. We don't know everything. Oh my gosh. I tell my students that. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to tell you, I have failed. I have fallen flat on my face. I've had journal articles rejected. You know, we are humans too. Yeah, not putting it, okay. Oh, bless you guys. Oh my goodness. That's powerful. Literally, you've given me goosebumps. Let's wrap up here so we can start right on time at 8:30. So what was this? This was, again, I call it, or Chad Littlefield, we and me, calls it connection before content. And I'm adding the listening in there. Here's a couple of questions that you can use if you would like. They can be pretty engaging universally. Again, this could be at a farm stand, this could be in a classroom, this could be in your nonprofit where you're volunteering, or in a commissioner's meeting. What's something life's teaching you right now? Whew, this past year and a half, that could be quite a conversation. What might you tell somebody? I use this with my students a lot because they realize that they have solutions in their heads. And sometimes the younger ones, especially, we don't always ask them for that. But when you flip it around, what might you tell someone who's feeling anxious about their job, their life, or whatever? All of a sudden, they begin to create those answers, and it can be super engaging. There's power in that crowdsourcing. What brings you joy? I love that one. I did that one yesterday with a group that I was teaching. So homework, I have to assign homework because I'm an extension educator, and you know everybody needs some homework because we don't get that as adults so much. So just Google Crystal Williams, Potential Matters. And again, this is a stories from the stage. And Crystal tells an amazing story. This is a listening assignment for you. She talks about potential. And in the work that we're doing in food systems, potential is everything. She talks about taking a risk for that potential. She talks about believing in someone when they may not yet believe in themselves. I have 100 things in my mind right now about new farmers, about people expanding their operations, about nonprofit groups doing food work, partnering with them, believing in them so that they can do more. So that's your homework assignment. Crystal Williams, Potential Matters. Good stuff. So thank you. Let me stop sharing here. So glad to help kick off this morning your things in the chat. I'm going to copy those and save those and use those in some of my work because that was fantastic. That idea of what can happen if we listen. So God bless you guys. Commissioner, thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited for today. We're 30 seconds early, so let's have a great food summit.
Good. Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much. It's a great way to start the morning off, isn't it? Well, good morning again. I'm Montgomery County Commissioner Judy Dodge, and on behalf of all of our partners at the Food Equity Coalition, welcome to the 11th Annual Montgomery County Food Summit. The 11th Annual, I couldn't be more pleased, which we are calling From Roots to Fruits, Cultivating Food Equity. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. You know, we've had nearly 300 people register for today's events. We're really excited this year to get a second-year report on the Montgomery County Food Equity Plan, which was rolled out for the first time at the 2019 summit. In addition to Haley Carretta's report on the food plan, we are also excited to have guests from lots of different sectors of our local food system, including growers, educators, grocery managers, and food waste experts. We are here today because we know that there is always more work to be done to improve our local food system. I hope that you are looking forward to hearing more about some of the ways we can transform our health and well-being of our community through healthy, affordable, local food access. I want to make sure that I thank our partners at OSU Extension, who once again graciously offered the use of their Zoom platform and shared other technological assistance so we could host this event virtually today. And finally, before we conclude today's Food Summit, I'm thrilled to be able to recognize some outstanding people and organizations who have done exceptional work in our community and present them with the 3rd Annual Montgomery County Food Champion Awards. But now I want to turn it over to Jeff Cooper, Health Commissioner for Public Health, Dayton and Montgomery County, to offer his introductions. Jeff.
I'll tell her to get John.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Dodge. I apologize. It looks like I'm having a little bit of difficulty working my video here. So I'll just go ahead and make some opening comments. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Public Health Dayton and Montgomery County, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the virtual 11th Annual Montgomery County Food Summit. Obviously, 2021 has not been the year we were hoping for and or expected. But this community continues to prove its resiliency and commitment to health equity. Those key values will continue to help us achieve public health's mission of improving the quality of life in our community by achieving the goals of public health, preventing the spread of disease, promoting healthy behaviors, and protecting the environment. While COVID-19 has, shall we say, dramatically changed our lives, we need to understand that lifestyle factors continue to be a large determinant of our overall health status. We're all aware that proper nutrition is still the cornerstone of good health throughout our life. And poor nutrition is still associated with many adverse health outcomes: heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, osteoporosis, certain types of cancer. We are also aware that not everyone has equitable access to food, especially fresh, healthy, affordable foods that make up a healthy diet. And if you just think for a minute about a little bit of the data, in Montgomery County, 36% of residents have low access to a grocery store. 36% of 531,000 plus individuals. That's a little over 190,000 residents, low access to a grocery store. We're the 5th most populated county in the state of Ohio, and 190,000 of our citizens have low access to a grocery store. 30% of children in our community eat less than 1 serving of fruits and vegetables per day. That's a little over 123,000 individuals in our county. And then 1 in 7 people in our county do not know where their next meal will come from. So those data need to change long-term if we're going to improve population level health within Montgomery County. And so that's why we remain committed to promoting health equity for all and creating a fair and sustainable food system that benefits everyone. It benefits our economy, it benefits the environment, and it benefits all people. So today, you're going to hear about new and innovative examples of how you're all working together to improve community food security. Community food security is a staple to good health and overall well-being. So I'm very excited for you to hear updates from the Food Equity Coalition and the collaboration that's taking place with that group and other public health priority projects, such as the Community Overdose Action Team and the Everyone Reach One Maternal and Infant Vitality Task Force. So while you're listening today, I hope you ask questions and provide input. So We also hope that you get involved with the Food Equity Coalition if you have not done so to date. So collective impact, that's a process that we recognize that shows outcomes in our community. Collective impact remains an important factor for improving nutrition for our most vulnerable citizens. So we need your knowledge, skills, and experiences to make a difference. So with that being said, now I'd like to introduce Tony Hall, Director Emeritus of the Alliance to End Hunger, former Congressman and Ambassador, and founder of the Hall Hunger Initiative. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Well, thank you, Jeff. And Judy, thank you so much for having this Montgomery County Food Summit every year. It's great. Jeff, thanks for the job that you're doing. A wonderful job as Health Commissioner. Appreciate it so much. I'm having a little bit of trouble with my Wi-Fi this morning. I'm not too bright when it comes to these kind of things. I have a friend coming over here to help me a little bit with it. So if I go out, you'll know that I'm having some problems with it, but I will proceed and hopefully everything will go okay. I consider it a great honor to be back here with the Food Summit. I want to thank Judy for continuing this important event. And I want to thank all of you for making this happen. It is so important that we get together like this every year. Dayton has achieved a real landmark this year with the opening of the Gem City Market. And before the market, we had one of the biggest food deserts in Ohio. Some would say it was the largest food desert east of the Mississippi. People couldn't get fresh fruits and vegetables. As a result, we saw an increase in diabetes, stroke, obesity, and other diet-related illnesses. Then a dedicated group of neighbor leaders, they decided that this was unacceptable. And they began the massive undertaking to create this new store. And it took 6 long years and a tremendous amount of work to turn this vision into reality. And the opening isn't the end of our work, it's really just the beginning. It's really exciting to see the market open, and last week we celebrated our 6-month anniversary. But our real goal is to get to the 20-year anniversary, and to do that, we need everyone to shop at the market. Bring your neighbors and tell everyone you know. When I was in Congress, voting was something that happened every 2 years. And we all voted every day, but when we spend our money, and when you shop at the Second Street Market or buy a CSA from a local grower, support farmers market or a dime at a family-owned restaurant, you're using your dollars to vote for a thriving local food system. We are seeing an increase in local growing, and that's healthy for our community. We want that to continue. So please do everything you can to shop at the Gem City Market and support these folks. The Hall Hunger Initiative has been working to assist some of the growers and sellers, and we started a micro grant project to award funds to help more local projects take off and succeed. And we are proud to support organizations that are making healthy, fresh food more available, groups like Mission of Mary and Healthy Family Market, and Access to Excess and Greater Edgemont Community Coalitions. And we are actively seeking more opportunities to partner with groups like these. If you know of small nonprofits working on hunger and needing a little support, please check out our micro grants program at hallhunger.org. I also want to recognize one of our micro grant partners, Westminster Presbyterian Church, for their leadership in creating and distributing community ID cards for immigrants and low-income neighbors. And we know that without a recognized ID card, many people miss out on our services and opportunities. Even picking up a child at school sometimes is a major problem. And if they don't have an ID, sometimes these schools won't let these people pick up their child or their grandchild. We have been working with Westminster in a coalition, including Welcome Dayton, Montgomery County Sheriff's, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, ABLE, and more to find a solution. And today we've created a secure card that's available to those who need one. 2 weeks ago, we had our very first sign up, and it was a big success, with 60 people getting their cards. And this is something most of us take for granted, but for these folks, it's absolutely life-changing. Our next event is January 8th, so please spread the word. We know these are tough times, and I want to thank each of you who are finding a way to help. We need everyone to get out there and vote for a healthy, thriving food system. And it's great just to be with you and to associate with you and be part of this wonderful team. It's my pleasure now to introduce Commissioner Matt Joseph, City of Dayton, a wonderful man. He worked for a time for me when I was a member of Congress, and I can't say enough good things about him. He has a wonderful future, and he brings value in everything that he does. And Matt Joseph.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your kind words. You talked about the time I worked for you. It was, I was honored and frankly lucky, I think, to have had the chance to watch you work up close and to see your commitment to the Dayton area and to folks here in Dayton and around the world suffering from food insecurity, your commitment to fix that. I was lucky to have someone like you to learn from, and you put me on the path to this career and my life as it is now. So I'm really grateful to you. And I guess now is the right time to congratulate you on ushering the third generation of hall leadership for the entire Dayton area. So congratulations. I also want to thank Commissioner Dodge, of course, for her leadership on this issue, her continued vision for our region in many areas, not just in food inequality, but in sustainability, human services. These are the things that are making the lives of we Montgomery County residents much better. And thank you, Judy, for that and for your friendship over these many years. And I cannot get off this thank you phase without thanking Commissioner Cooper for his incredible leadership over these last couple of years, especially, but really over his entire career. He and his organization have been excellent leaders. They have guided us. It's a subject that we did not know much about before. We know all too much now. But Commissioner Cooper, thank you very much. I hope you have a well-deserved and relaxing retirement. But thank you for the role you played over these many years for us. And while we're thanking, I want to thank you all for being here. On behalf of the City Commission, you're going to hear from Commissioner Shaw here in just a second. But we want to welcome you all for being here. I don't know that there's ever an easy time to be doing this work that we do, but the last few years have been even tougher than whatever that average is. We really appreciate you all being here and for your consistent work. Part of the difficulty when we work to change systems in the long term, like with having kids or planting forests, is that we never really totally realize the fruits of our labor. With community partners, we recognized in these last few years, not just the overwhelming need in our region, which folks have already talked about, but also the real need for us to collaborate. And that's where this coalition was born, where the seed was planted, so to speak. And with every project, every member of the food shed included, every meeting in our community, we continue to tend to this work, and I hope it'll continue to grow. I'm sure it will. Like any justice work, it's long and arduous. To continue the metaphor, hard days of weeding, tending, watering, protecting, nurturing, and no seed is guaranteed. But I'm proud to say that I think this work has already given fruit. For all the families that we have helped, for all the families that we will help be less or maybe even no longer food insecure, for all the systems that we make sustainable, we're getting this work done. And really, I have faith that it'll only continue to grow and that the driver will be incredibly dedicated and competent people here in this room and all of our partners. So thank you for all your hard work. I know that all your work will continue to bring fruits into our community. Now I want to turn this over to my good friend and my colleague, Chris Shaw, to say a few words too. Chris?
All right, I'm muted. Well, thank you. Thanks to my friend and fellow Commissioner Matt Joseph for his warm introduction. And I want to echo his thanks and appreciation for Ambassador Hall, Commissioner Dodge, and Commissioner Cooper. And I'm grateful to each and every one of you for your work, commitment, and dedication to our community, especially during this time where the need is just so very great. I'm so grateful for you all, not just for your work, but also for your presence here today. And I know that there are no easy days in making our food system equitable and just, and that every moment of your time is both precious and valuable. So I just want to thank you. Thank you so much. I also know how much it can be, and you know, in the past few years, as everyone on this call knows, you know, there's been no shortage of difficulties. The Dayton region and our world and have had no shortage of hard times. I'm here to talk today about regeneration. What happens in our food system after our food is grown, produced, and consumed? But it's also how, after putting so much work into our community, how important it is to leave time and space for regeneration of ourselves. In the food space, this often means thinking creatively about food waste, one of the most sustainable ways to combat climate change. It means replanting what we can from seeds already grown. It means making sure that there's enough material for regeneration to be possible. While not the most glamorous part of our food system, we can't grow if we don't regenerate first. So we see more and more growers, producers, and distributors thinking both inside and outside the box on the ways we can make our system work more holistically and sustainably, and there couldn't be a better time to do so. In our own lives, this means acknowledging that in order to do this work, while we can never lose sight of the need around us, we also need to leave space and time to enjoy our region and our food system on a more individual level. I hope over the course of this morning, while you're thinking of ways to better connect with each other and better the work you do on a daily basis, you also take time to think about new methods to try with your own family, new foods or restaurants to enjoy, new gardens to grow. We need you in this work with us, so please make sure to continue to take care of yourselves so you can continue to be. Thanks again so much for having Commissioner Joseph and myself, and we look forward to more virtual and in-person conversations soon. And now, to continue the agenda, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Dodge.
Okay, there you go. Thank you so much to Jeff and Tony and Matt and Chris. Appreciate your comments. Thank you. So first off, we're going to have Haley Carretta, Food Systems Project Manager from Public Health Dayton and Montgomery County, to give an update on the Montgomery County Food Equity Plan. Now, I do want to mention that hopefully at the end of her presentation, we're going to have time for questions. So if you have a question, put it in your chat box there. And if we don't have time to answer, we will get you the information, the responses that you need after the program. So Haley, you're on. Thank you.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Commissioner Dodge. I hope you guys can see me and hear me okay. I'm the one sharing my computer today, and it is throwing off my perspective. I can't see the participants. All I can see is making sure that you guys have the slides you need. So just let me know if there's any issues. But I'm so happy to be here today. This is my favorite time of year, is to connect with all of you and let you know a little bit about some of the really great work going on in Montgomery County around our food system. As many of you may remember, in 2019, we unveiled the Montgomery County Food Equity Coalition and our Food Equity Plan. And so I'm here today just to give you a couple brief updates. So just as a reminder, what is our mission for the Food Equity Coalition? We want to decrease food waste, increase availability of healthy, local, affordable food, and we want to decrease food insecurity. And our objectives really align with collective impacts that I know a lot of you are familiar with, but really the objectives are, we want to just align goals and strategies and activities of existing work. We aren't here to recreate the wheel. If there's great work going on, how do we work together better? How do we enhance our communication and coordination amongst resources and amongst organizations? How do we expand our public information efforts to educate the community with consistent vocabulary and to really focus and promote health equity? We want to coordinate and improve and expand resources and activities that are going really well. Let's expand them to other neighborhoods, to other communities. And we want to continue to develop shared measurements to evaluate our efforts and make sure that we're having the outcomes that our community expects to see. So this is a snapshot from our 2020 annual plan, but here is some community food security by the numbers. So I'll just share a few of those. One of the ones I want to share is our food insecurity rate. Now, this rate is still from 2019 at the moment. There's a lot of chatter about, what has that really looked like from the pandemic? Measurements and how we take information has changed, right? We saw more people food insecure during the pandemic than we did prior. So while we haven't really confirmed and got really confident on a number since the pandemic started, in 2019, we were about at 15.2% in Montgomery County. We also know that the average SNAP benefit a day per person is about $4.30. So that is each day what someone has to eat. We also know that there was over $30,000 in community supported agriculture vegetable boxes that were provided to patients in the Infant Vitality Program. I'm really excited for you to learn more about that today. So I'm not gonna spill the beans on that. I will let our presenters talk more about that. We also have over 90 Food Equity Coalition members. We want to have more. So if you're not a member with us, I want you to reach out to us and get involved. But we are growing, it seems like, by the minute. And then also just a quick shout out to the Foodbank and University of Dayton. In 2020, they had over 160,000 pounds of food diverted from our landfill to compost. That's a huge accomplishment. And also in 2020, we had new food desert data. I'm sorry, this was in this spring, so 2021. USDA unveiled new food desert data. We're aware that food desert data does not tell the whole story. Food deserts are identified by the USDA as census tracts where there isn't a grocery store within a mile of an urban setting, and there's low income and low reliable transportation. So we know that some of the really cool initiatives that are going on in our community aren't going to reflect on a food desert map. For instance, a mobile grocery isn't going to make this map with the USDA change, but this still helps us really prioritize where some of our most vulnerable communities around food equity might be. So they don't do these maps every year. That's why you're going to see 2015 and 2019. These are the most available maps. But what are the differences? Mostly you're going to see the differences on the right side of the county, on that east side. You're going to notice that around the Kettering area and East Dayton, there's some census tracts that are no longer food deserts. Then you're also unfortunately going to see a few more food deserts in North Dayton and up towards Huber Heights. So what does that mean? Maybe North Dayton, depending on when the USDA took this information, was from the tornado. So we still have plenty of work to do when it comes to food equity. I also just want to take a minute to share some highlights from some of the Food Equity Coalition partners and some of the great work that's going on. So we can't have a food summit without talking about the amazing work that's going on at our food bank. In 2021, we've seen new mobile sites in response to service gap maps in northern Montgomery County. So if you joined the food summit last year, you will remember that the food bank was working on service gap maps. These are when they look at where people might be food insecure and where they're lacking food pantries. And so this is where they'll set up their mobile site until they can find something long-term. So we love that they're helping fill that gap for our community. They also coordinated bonus mass distribution sites in partnership with Dayton Children's and Care Source, serving over 2,500 families. And you might have seen these promoted at the Dixie Drive-In. That's where these took place. And this picture is actually from one of the days that I got to go out and participate with them as well. And I saw them serve over 500 families that day. And it was a hot, hot day. So we know how hard they were working. So what else are we doing? We're supporting our moms and families. In 2021, the Food Equity Coalition was able to partner with Produce Perks and the Ohio Equity Institute to provide free grocery delivery for food insecure, pregnant, and new moms. That was to Dot's Market. We also provided gap funding for the Infant Vitality Prescription Program. So again, we have Produce Perks here today that's going to talk a little bit more about that, but this is an excellent way to show how we're identifying vulnerable populations that are impacted by other health concerns we have in our community and really trying to support and align efforts across the community. We also were able to help coordinate the Great Apple Crunch. We distributed over 500 local apples last month. We supported 4 different Montgomery County producers. That included Bayers, Monon's Fruit Farm, Crossroads, and Toucan. So if you've ever been to one of those farms, just wanted to give a shout out. And if you haven't, I highly recommend that you go. The Great Apple Crunch is just really a day where we can promote our local food system, promote healthy eating, and just have some fun. So this picture is from Mrs. Evans's 2nd grade class in New Lebanon. I love how creative they were with getting the kids without us having to get a million photo releases signed. So what a fun way when we couldn't be there in person to see the kids with their local apples. We also were able to participate in the Victory Seeds Garden Project with Ohio State Extension and the Community Overdose Action Team. This provided seed kit packets to Miracle Clubhouse and 115. This was working with agencies that are already interested in growing food or already kind of dabbling into that area with their clients. This helps increase vegetable consumption and increase educational opportunities. This picture is actually from Miracle Clubhouse, which is right on Brown Street by Miami Valley Hospital and Goodwill Easter Seals, if you haven't seen it yet. And this is a great way where they were able to teach their clients about growing food, but then they also got to reap the benefits from it as well. So you can see how they were giving away some of their free veggies there. And also just a big shout out to Dayton Regional Green. This year for the Bring Your Green Challenge, they did a giving garden challenge. This encouraged donating food, reducing water usage, and restoring biodiversity and other sustainable growing practices. Dayton Regional Green had 12 organizations and 25 individuals participate with their gardens. And soon, I believe there's going to be some $5,000 in cash prizes announced. So you're going to learn more about this program here soon too. Lastly, I just want to talk about one of our branches, the Strong Communities branch, is working on a food champion toolkit. This isn't a project that's quite finished yet, but I really want to take the time to let you know that this is a resource that'll be available soon on our website. This will be a place where if we have someone that really wants to champion food equity in their neighborhood, this is a place you can go to find the resources that might support you in that effort. There will be advocacy resources, local data, nutrition assistance qualifications, food equity language that you can use, dietary guidelines, sustainable food practices, and more. We hope this is a starting point that we can continue to grow and make just a really good one-stop shop for you. And lastly, if you want to hear more about what the coalition has been up to, you can check out our 2020 annual report. We will soon be working on our 2021 annual report, but we have a lot of information to share with you. And lastly, if you want to talk more about what the Food Equity Coalition is working on, or you have some ideas, join us this afternoon from 5 to 6 for our post-food summit conversation, where we'll talk more about the coalition. You can ask more questions if you think about them later, or you just want to learn more about what we're working on. And I've referenced our website quite a few times, so you can see our website here. It's mcfoodequitycoalition.org, and there's my contact information too, in case you just want to get a hold of me directly. With that, Commissioner Dodge, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Haley. A lot of good information. It's been a busy year, hasn't it? One of the questions and one of the requests we had from someone, they'd love to have a list of the local farmers. Is there any way you can put it on the website and the Facebook?
Yeah, of course. There's actually, I think, some resources already available that have that information. So let me put that in the chat box for you to find that. I would love to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, Here we go. The first session we have is on growing, and it's with a video that's been produced by the Montgomery County Communications team, featuring some local growers, including those who participated in the new Giving Garden program.
Donna Schaup, and I'm the coordinator of the Giving Garden here at Mosaic Church. This is our 8th season. A giving garden is a garden where all of the produce that we harvest goes to the food pantries. We have found that there's a definite need in the Dayton region for fresh vegetables to people who are living in food deserts or who are just food insecure.
I'm Karen Mueller, assistant coordinator of the garden. I think every year is different because you never know what the weather's going to be like, what kind of bugs you may get from one year to another.
There's a nice sized one right here.
With gardening, you can't really schedule well because we are in Mother Nature's hands, basically.
I'm Nancy Brown, and I'm the lay leader for the garden here at Christ Church. Our main focus was to give to the Kettering Backpack Program, but to give it to people in need in Kettering. We were out there harvesting in the rain this morning because you just sort of have to work with what the weather's doing. We have to keep an eye on the vegetables because if you let them go too long, I have learned, they get too ripe. Don't be afraid to try and understand that, you know, you're going to lose some of your crop. There's going to be some things you may have to change, but in the end, you still get a lot of vegetables.
I'm Bob Downs. I'm head of the green team at Christ United Methodist Church. We had people volunteer at different times during the year to water the garden.
Haley, do you want to try to start it over?